Hey guys, it's Owen from Wrestling Inc. back with another wrestling news roundup. Without any further ado, let's get into today's biggest stories in the world of professional wrestling. Former WWE star appears at AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door. Claudio Castagnoli is all elite. During the AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door pay-per-view, Claudio Castagnoli, formerly known as Cesaro in WWE, debuted when he was the mystery opponent against Zack Sabre Jr., who was slated to face Bryan Danielson last night. However, on the June 22nd episode of AEW Dynamite, Danielson confirmed that he wasn't medically cleared to compete, but stated he had a suitable replacement to face Sabre Jr. at last night's event. The match against Sabre Jr. would mark Castagnoli's first appearance in a non-WWE ring since signing with the company in 2011. Before his decade-long run in WWE, Castagnoli was a star on the independent scene, most notably having runs in Ring of Honor, PWG, CZW, and Chikara. Castagnoli initially signed with WWE in 2011, where he quickly rose the ranks, going from the company's developmental territory FCW and quickly making his main roster debut in April 2012. The former Cesaro would win his first singles title just 4 months following his SmackDown debut, defeating Santino Marella to win the United States Championship. The Swiss Superman is a 7-time WWE Tag Team Champion. Castagnoli quietly let his WWE deal expire this past February, ending an 11-year tenure with the company. Following his WWE departure, Castagnoli was reportedly laying low and taking some time off to be with his family before making his in-ring return. It was reported that Castagnoli had a high asking price when being approached by several companies to make appearances, but it appears as if he and AEW President and CEO Tony Khan reached an agreement. At last night's Forbidden Door pay-per-view, Castagnoli debuted as the newest member of William Regal's Blackpool Combat Club. Fightful Select has more details on the incoming Swiss wrestler. While the original plans for Castagnoli's AEW debut weren't specified, the report noted that AEW had already planned merchandise and promotional material for the former Cesaro prior to Sunday's AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling crossover event. Furthermore, the duration of Castagnoli's contract was described as, quote, long-term, but Fightful couldn't confirm if he had put pen to paper yet. As reported previously, Castagnoli had been spotted training at the Flatbacks Wrestling School in Orlando, which is owned by AEW star Shawn Spears and former WWE superstar Tyler Breeze, multiple times over the last several weeks. Castagnoli was reportedly backstage throughout the night on Sunday, which would mean the locker room was aware of his debut. In contrast, Bryan Danielson's debut was kept under wraps at last year's AEW All Out pay-per-view, with Danielson admittedly spending much of the night waiting in the production truck until he stepped out during the main event segment. Less than 4 nights after his AEW debut, Castagnoli will be in action once again this Wednesday on AEW Dynamite when he teams up with interim AEW World Champion Jon Moxley, Wheeler Yuta, Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz in a blood and guts match against the Jericho Appreciation Society. During the closing stages of Forbidden Door, Castagnoli was confronted by Kingston, who didn't appear to be very pleased to be on the same team as his old Chikara and PWG rival. Castagnoli would later take to Twitter to comment on his AEW debut, saying, quote, "I'm the one who knocks." New AEW Interim World Champion crowned at Forbidden Door. Jon Moxley defeated Hiroshi Tanahashi to become the new AEW Interim World Champion at AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling's Forbidden Door event last night. As noted on the June 3rd episode of AEW Rampage, newly crowned AEW World Champion CM Punk announced he had a foot injury. Due to his injury, AEW President Tony Khan decided to name an interim AEW World Champion via an Eliminator Series to crown a new champion. To get to last night's match, Tanahashi had to defeat Hiroki Goto at New Japan Pro Wrestling's Dominion event, while Moxley had to defeat Kyle O'Reilly on the June 8th episode of Dynamite. After AEW World Champion CM Punk is medically cleared to compete, Moxley will face Punk in an AEW World Championship unification match. Moxley has held the AEW World title before. His first run was from February 29, 2020 to December 2nd, 2020. Jon Moxley was able to walk away from the Forbidden Door event as the interim AEW World Champion, but he was originally slated to be in the opening match of the show, according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer radio show. The pay-per-view ended up being an injury-bit one, with a lot of top stars having to be taken off the card due to a variety of problems that both AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling are dealing with. One of the biggest blows came to CM Punk, who was originally going to main event the show against Hiroshi Tanahashi for the AEW World Championship, which he had recently won from Hangman Page. Unfortunately, Punk suffered an injury that forced him off the show, that led to Tony Khan changing the main event to be for an interim AEW World Championship after he opted not to vacate the title from Punk. Tanahashi remained in that match, and the AEW president put Jon Moxley in against him, which was a match the former WWE superstar ended up winning. However, had the original plans happened, Moxley was slated to be in the opening match, which was the six-man tag team bout that saw Shota Umino, Wheeler Yuta and Eddie Kingston face Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara and Minoru Suzuki. It is unknown whether he would have replaced Yuta or Kingston in that one, or if the idea was for him to be in an 8-man tag team match, but the plan was to have Moxley team with Umino, who has been his protege. New IWGP Tag Team Champions crowned at AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door. New IWGP Tag Team Champions were crowned last night at AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling's Forbidden Door event. FTR defeated former IWGP Tag Team Champions the United Empire and Roppongi Vice to retain their Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles and to become the new IWGP Tag Team Champions. During the match, Dax Harwood was walked to the back by medics after being checked on at ringside. He would later return to the ring with his shoulder taped up. This is the first time that Wheeler and Harwood have held the IWGP Tag Team titles. FTR have been the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions since they defeated the Briscoes on April 1st at Supercard of Honor 15. Before losing the IWGP Tag Team titles last night, Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb had held them since June 12. Inaugural AEW All-Atlantic Champion crowned at Forbidden Door. The inaugural AEW All-Atlantic Champion was crowned last night at AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling's Forbidden Door pay-per-view. In the finals of the tournament, PAC defeated Miro, Malachi Black and Clark Connors to become the first ever All-Atlantic Champion. To get to the finals, PAC had to defeat Buddy Matthews, Malachi Black defeated Penta Oscuro, and Miro defeated Ethan Page to get to the finals. As noted, Clark Connors took the place of New Japan Pro Wrestling star Tomohiro Ishii. Ishii was pulled out of the match due to a left knee injury and was not medically cleared to compete. The AEW All-Atlantic title was introduced on June 8 on an episode of AEW Dynamite on TBS. So what are your thoughts on today's Wrestling News Roundup? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestling Inc. and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.